Pacino's performance is best described as a classic Pacino performance. It's vintage Pacino. And the almost 80-year-old senior citizen somehow finds some energy within himself to play the larger-than-life and in-your-face Jimmy Hoffa with such colour, dynamism and vitality that you completely forget how old Pacino really is. Pacino provides so much of the film's profanity and humour. It's described as a tour de force, and it really is. He is the centre of attention in the film. He takes it by the throat and never lets go until his final moments in the film. In fact, the film is a little dull and meandering until he shows up and breathes life into the picture. He gives us some classic Pacino shouting matches and verbal smackdowns, and his sparring with the likes of Pesci in what is my favourite scene in the film during Frank Sheeran Appreciation Night shows that it wasn't just a case of Al Pacino chewing the scenery, but there was genuine depth to his performance. Pacino showcased Hoffa's drive perfectly. His display of brash ego and fearlessness pulls everything in around him, and the entire film starts revolving around him. Pacino plays a charismatic superhero, driven by belief in himself. There's an energy to Al Pacino that we haven't seen since the 90s. His performance is actually quite shocking. He really does show up, and you scratch your head thinking, where is all this energy coming from this old man? His transformation to Hoffa is remarkable. You sit there nodding in agreement as Hoffa declares that America stops when the Teamsters stop. You really feel his sense of ownership of the union when he comes out of prison and tries to take it back. It's my union, he keeps repeating. And you really do get a sense that he thinks he's untouchable, laughing off to Sheeran that the mob wouldn't dare to whack him, going right up to Buffalino's face, a man who you never argue with, and saying, nobody threatens Jimmy Hoffa. It goes without saying, because it's the same for all three actors, but you forget that you're watching Al Pacino deliver lines on a film stage and just become transfixed by his James Hoffa. For a character with such bravado, it is quite alarming just how much sensitivity Pacino can pour into the role. With the big Teamsters rally speeches, the arguments and the shouting, as good as they are, and as good as Pacino is, we know already he can do that without breaking a sweat. The only question was whether his age would allow it, and as stated, you would never guess that Pacino was almost 80. But what's surprising is the warmth that comes from him in some of the quieter scenes, like when he's alone with Frank in his pajamas, or the really sweet scene where he shares ice cream with Peggy Sheeran. Scenes like these are necessary to play out without fault, as the film is essentially setting up Hoffa as a good man in a bad world, with his goodness something that the innocence of a child is able to recognise, as manifested in Sheeran's daughter taking a liking to Hoffa but being cold to the likes of Russell Buffalino.